Everyone, friendliness is a wonderful trait. It builds relationships, fosters trust, and spreads positivity. But what happens when we are too friendly? When our kindness is taken for granted? When our boundaries are ignored? Today, I want to talk about why we need to stop being too friendly and learn to strike a balance between kindness and self-respect. Being too friendly can make people take you for granted in ways you may not even realize. When you are always available, always saying yes, and always putting others before yourself, people start expecting that from you. What once seemed like kindness and generosity turns into an obligation in their minds. They assume you will always be there to help, to listen, to support, and to accommodate their needs, often without considering whether it is convenient or fair to you. Over time, this dynamic can lead to you being undervalued, as people may stop appreciating your efforts and start viewing them as something they are entitled to. When people take you for granted, they may not intentionally be trying to exploit you, but the reality is that human nature often gravitates toward convenience. If someone knows you will always say yes, they might not even think twice about asking for favors or making demands on your time. They might not recognize that you too have your own priorities, struggles, and boundaries. Instead of viewing your help as a gift, they see it as a given. And when you finally do say no or try to set boundaries, they may react with surprise or even disappointment, because they have become accustomed to a version of you that prioritizes them over yourself. This is why it is important to establish limits early on. If you give too much without expecting anything in return, you create an unbalanced relationship where the other person benefits more than you do. Friendliness should be mutual. There should be appreciation, respect, and a sense of reciprocity. But if you are too friendly to the point where others assume your kindness is endless, you risk being treated as an afterthought rather than someone who deserves the same consideration you offer to them. When you are too friendly, it can lead to a lack of respect for your time and boundaries. People often assume that those who are always available and accommodating have no firm personal limits. If you constantly say yes to every request, agree to plans even when it's inconvenient, or drop everything for others, they begin to see you as someone whose time isn't as valuable as theirs. Instead of recognizing your kindness as a choice, they start treating it as an expectation. The more you allow this behavior, the harder it becomes to establish boundaries later, because people have already formed an image of you as someone who never says no. Your time is one of the most valuable things you have, yet when you are too friendly, people may not consider it as precious as their own. They might call you at odd hours, ask for last-minute favors, or assume you will always be available to listen to their problems, even when it's inconvenient for you. They may unintentionally dismiss your own priorities because, in their minds, you have always put them first. While being supportive and helpful is a wonderful trait, it becomes problematic when it comes at the cost of your own responsibilities and well-being. The more you allow people to disregard your boundaries, the harder it becomes to reclaim them. Setting boundaries doesn't mean you have to be rude or unkind. It simply means making it clear that your time and needs matter just as much as anyone else's. If you continue to allow people to ignore your limits, they will never learn to respect them. Over time, this lack of respect can turn into frustration and resentment on your end, making you feel unappreciated and drained. The reality is that respect must be mutual. If you don't respect your own time and boundaries, you cannot expect others to do it for you. By being firm about what you can and cannot do, you teach people how to treat you. Friendly does not mean endlessly available, and kindness does not mean sacrificing your own well-being for others. Saying yes all the time can lead to exhaustion and resentment, even if your intentions are good. When you constantly agree to help others, take on extra responsibilities, or accommodate requests without considering your own needs, you slowly drain yourself emotionally, mentally, and even physically. At first, it might feel fulfilling to be seen as reliable, helpful, and kind, but over time, the burden of always saying yes can become overwhelming. You might find yourself stretched too thin, juggling commitments that leave you with no time for yourself. The more you give, the more people will expect from you, and the cycle continues until you are left feeling exhausted and unappreciated. Beyond just physical tiredness, always saying yes can lead to emotional exhaustion. When you keep prioritizing others over yourself, it can create an internal struggle where you feel trapped between wanting to be there for people and feeling like you have no time or energy left for yourself. This can lead to resentment toward others for constantly relying on you and toward yourself for allowing it to happen. You may begin to feel frustrated, not because you don't care about the people in your life, but because your own needs are consistently pushed aside. The frustration can build up over time, making you feel like you're being taken advantage of, even if the people around you don't intend to do so. Another danger of always saying yes is that it prevents you from focusing on your own goals and personal growth. When you spend too much time fulfilling others' requests, you might put off your own projects, delay self-care, or neglect important aspects of your life just to ensure others are satisfied. Over time, this can lead to feelings of regret or a sense that you've lost control over your own life. Saying yes too often might seem like a way to keep everyone happy, but in reality, it often comes at the cost of your own happiness and well-being. Fear of rejection makes people overly accommodating, often leading them to say yes even when they don't want to. Many people struggle with the idea of disappointing others because they worry that saying no will make them seem unkind, selfish, or unreliable. This fear stems from a deep need for acceptance, whether from friends, family, colleagues, or society in general. They believe that by always being agreeable, they will be liked, appreciated, and valued. However, in the process of trying to please everyone, they often end up neglecting their own needs, feelings, and priorities. One of the biggest consequences of this fear is that it causes people to put themselves in uncomfortable or inconvenient situations just to avoid upsetting others. They might agree to extra work even when they are overwhelmed, make plans they don't want to attend, or allow people to invade their personal space just to avoid confrontation. The irony is that while they strive to make others happy, they often end up feeling unhappy themselves. The more they suppress their own desires, the more they lose sight of what truly matters to them. Over time, this can lead to frustration, stress, and even burnout because they are constantly prioritizing external validation over their own well-being. Another problem with being overly accommodating due to the fear of rejection is that it can attract people who take advantage of kindness. When someone always agrees and never sets boundaries, they may find themselves surrounded by individuals who only value them for what they can offer, rather than for who they truly are. Instead of building meaningful, balanced relationships, they might end up feeling used and unappreciated. People who truly care about them will respect their decisions, even if it means hearing no sometimes. But when they allow fear to dictate their choices, they give others control over their lives. The reality is that saying no does not make someone a bad person. It does not mean they are rejecting others. It simply means they are prioritizing their own needs when necessary. True friends and respectful colleagues will understand and appreciate honesty rather than expect constant agreement. Learning to overcome the fear of rejection takes time, but it is essential for building confidence, self-respect, and genuine connections with others. Being kind is important, but it should never come at the cost of one's own peace of mind. Being too available can make you seem weak, not kind, because people tend to respect those who value themselves and their time. When you are always available at a moment's notice, dropping everything to accommodate others, it can send the message that your own priorities are not as important. People might start assuming that you have nothing better to do or that you lack the confidence to say no. Instead of appreciating your generosity, they may begin to see you as someone who can be easily persuaded, manipulated, or taken advantage of. The more you make yourself available without hesitation, the less people will value your time and effort. Another problem with always being available is that it can create an unhealthy dynamic in relationships, whether it's friendships, family connections, or professional interactions. If you never set limits, others may not feel the need to respect them. They might call you at odd hours, expecting immediate attention, invite you to events without considering your schedule, or continuously ask for favors without recognizing the effort it takes on your part. At first, this might feel like a way to strengthen relationships, but in reality, it often leads to an imbalance where you are giving much more than you receive. Instead of being seen as a strong, independent person, you might be perceived as someone who lacks self-respect and is too eager to please. Additionally, when you are always available, people can begin to take your kindness for granted. They may not feel the need to express gratitude or appreciation because they assume you will always be there. This can lead to feelings of frustration and resentment over time, especially if you start to feel like your efforts are unacknowledged. When people have to work a little harder to get your time or attention, they naturally appreciate it more. Scarcity creates value, and when you make it clear that your time is limited and precious, people are more likely to respect it. Being available to others is not a bad thing, but balance is necessary. Strong, confident individuals understand that their time and energy are valuable, and they are selective about where they invest it. It's not about being rude or unhelpful, it's about ensuring that your kindness is appreciated rather than exploited. When you stop making yourself excessively available, you will find that people respect you more, appreciate your presence, and value the time you do choose to give. Setting boundaries earns respect and strengthens relationships because it communicates to others that you value yourself, your time, and your well-being. Many people mistakenly believe that being constantly available and saying yes to everything will make them more likable, but in reality, it often leads to a loss of respect. When you fail to set boundaries, people may assume that you lack self-confidence or that you do not mind being inconvenienced. They may not even realize that their actions are overstepping because you have never made it clear where your limits are. However, when you set boundaries, you teach people how to treat you, and this in turn fosters healthier and more balanced relationships. One of the most important aspects of setting boundaries is that it allows for mutual respect. When people know that you have limits, they are more likely to appreciate the time and effort you do choose to invest in them. They will understand that your kindness is intentional rather than something they can simply take for granted. This can lead to stronger relationships because there is a balance of give and take, rather than one person constantly giving while the other only receives. Those who truly care about you will not be offended by your boundaries. Instead, they will respect them because they understand that everyone has their own needs and priorities. Furthermore, setting boundaries prevents resentment and emotional exhaustion. When you constantly accommodate others without considering your own needs, it can build up frustration over time. You might start feeling unappreciated or even taken advantage of, and this can create tension in relationships. However, when you make your limits clear from the beginning, you avoid these negative emotions because you are taking control of your own well-being. Instead of feeling obligated to always say yes, you allow yourself the freedom to make choices that align with your personal values and priorities. People often fear that setting boundaries will make them seem rude or selfish, but the opposite is true. Boundaries demonstrate self-respect and self-awareness, two qualities that others admire. When you establish and enforce your limits, you gain the respect of those around you because they see you as someone who values themselves. This in turn leads to deeper and more meaningful relationships because the interactions are based on mutual understanding rather than one-sided expectations. Setting boundaries is not about pushing people away. It is about creating a foundation of respect that allows relationships to thrive in a healthy and balanced way. Friendliness should not come at the cost of self-respect because when you constantly prioritize others over yourself, you gradually lose your sense of identity and personal value. Being kind, helpful, and accommodating are wonderful traits, but if they are practiced at the expense of your own well-being, they can lead to feelings of frustration, exhaustion, and even self-doubt. Many people believe that always being friendly, even when it is inconvenient, will make them more likable and appreciated. However, the truth is that if you do not respect yourself, others may not respect you either. People naturally mirror the way you treat yourself, and if you continuously put yourself last, they may assume that it is acceptable to do the same. When you allow your friendliness to overshadow your self-respect, you may find yourself tolerating behavior that you should not accept. This could be in the form of people interrupting your personal time, disregarding your opinions, or treating you as if your needs and feelings do not matter. If you always avoid conflict and say yes to everything just to keep the peace, you risk becoming someone who is valued only for their willingness to serve others rather than for who they truly are. Over time, this can lead to resentment as you begin to realize that you are giving far more than you are receiving. It is important to remember that self-respect is not about arrogance or selfishness. It is about recognizing your own worth and ensuring that you are treated with dignity. Another consequence of sacrificing self-respect for friendliness is that it can negatively impact your confidence and mental well-being. When you constantly suppress your own needs to accommodate others, you may start feeling invisible, as if your opinions and desires are not important. This can lead to a cycle of self-doubt, where you question whether you even deserve to have boundaries or to prioritize yourself. The longer you allow this pattern to continue, the harder it becomes to break free from it. Eventually, you may start to feel trapped in a persona that is always agreeable but never truly fulfilled. To maintain both kindness and self-respect, it is essential to strike a balance. Being friendly does not mean allowing people to take advantage of you or disregarding your own well-being. True kindness comes with confidence, the ability to help others while also recognizing your own limits and standing firm when necessary. People who truly appreciate you will respect your boundaries and value you, not just for what you can do for them, but for who you are. Self-respect should never be sacrificed in the pursuit of being liked, because those who genuinely care about you will accept and admire you for standing up for yourself. Learning to say no is essential for a balanced life because it allows you to protect your time, energy, and well-being while maintaining healthy relationships. Many people struggle with saying no because they fear disappointing others, damaging relationships, or being seen as selfish. However, always saying yes can lead to an overwhelming burden of responsibilities, leaving you feeling exhausted, unappreciated, and even resentful. Saying no is not about being rude or unkind. Rather, it is about recognizing your own limits and ensuring that you do not take on more than you can handle. One of the biggest benefits of learning to say no is that it helps you set clear boundaries. When people know that you are willing to say no when necessary, they are more likely to respect your time and decisions. On the other hand, if you always say yes, people may assume that you are endlessly available and have no personal limits. This can lead to a situation where others take advantage of your generosity, often without realizing the impact it has on you. By confidently saying no when needed, you establish yourself as someone who values their own priorities and is not easily pressured into commitments that do not serve them. Saying no also protects your mental and emotional well-being. Constantly taking on extra tasks, favors, or social obligations just to please others can drain you, leaving you with little time to rest and focus on your own needs. When you are always trying to accommodate others, you may start neglecting your personal goals, hobbies, or even basic self-care. Over time, this imbalance can lead to burnout, stress, and frustration. Learning to say no allows you to take back control of your life and ensure that you are making choices based on what is best for you rather than out of fear of upsetting others. Many people worry that saying no will push people away or make them less likable, but the truth is, that genuine relationships are built on mutual understanding and respect. True friends, supportive colleagues, and caring family members will not resent you for setting boundaries. In fact, they are more likely to admire you for knowing your limits and being honest about what you can and cannot do. The people who truly matter will respect your decisions, while those who only value you for what you can offer may fade away. And that is okay. Learning to say no is ultimately an act of self-respect and empowerment. It allows you to prioritize what truly matters to you while maintaining healthier, more fulfilling relationships. It does not mean you are rejecting people or refusing to help. It simply means that you are being mindful of your own needs and making choices that align with your values. By learning to say no with confidence, you create space for the things that truly bring you happiness and fulfillment, rather than stretching yourself thin trying to please everyone else. Confidence and self-assurance attract genuine respect, whereas excessive friendliness can sometimes be mistaken for weakness. When you constantly go out of your way to please others, people may start seeing you as someone who lacks confidence and struggles to stand up for themselves. While kindness is a virtue, it should always be accompanied by a strong sense of self-worth. When you are too eager to please, some individuals may assume that you are seeking validation or approval rather than acting out of genuine goodwill. This can lead to a dynamic where your kindness is not truly appreciated, but is instead expected, making it easier for others to overlook your feelings and needs. Confidence is a key factor in how people perceive and treat you. Those who carry themselves with self-assurance and are selective with their time and energy often command greater respect. They do not feel the need to constantly prove their worth through excessive friendliness or people-pleasing behavior. Instead, they focus on building authentic relationships where kindness is mutual and boundaries are respected. On the other hand, those who overextend themselves for others, especially at their own expense, may be perceived as individuals who lack assertiveness. This can unfortunately attract people who are willing to take advantage of their generosity. When you prioritize your confidence and self-respect, you set a standard for how others should treat you. People take cues from the way you present yourself. If you communicate with authority and make it clear that you value yourself, they will be less likely to exploit your kindness. On the contrary, if you are always overly accommodating and hesitant to say no, it can create an impression that your time and efforts are not as valuable as others. Confidence does not mean being unkind or dismissive, but rather having the self-assurance to recognize your worth and to demand the same level of respect that you give to others. Additionally, confidence helps you build healthier and more meaningful relationships. When you have a strong sense of self, you attract people who appreciate you for who you truly are, rather than for what you can do for them. Instead of chasing approval through excessive friendliness, you cultivate genuine connections where both sides contribute equally. People admire those who are kind yet firm, helpful yet assertive, and friendly yet self-respecting. The balance between warmth and confidence allows you to maintain your kindness while ensuring that it is valued and respected by others. Ultimately, your self-worth should never be tied to how much you do for others. Confidence in who you are, rather than in how much you give, is what earns genuine respect. People respect those who are kind but also know their limits. Instead of bending over backward to gain approval, focus on maintaining a strong sense of self, setting boundaries, and showing that your kindness comes from strength, not from a need for validation. When you embrace confidence alongside friendliness, you command the respect you deserve while still being the kind-hearted person you naturally are. Not everyone deserves your time and effort, and recognizing this can save you from unnecessary stress, disappointment, and emotional exhaustion. Many people fall into the trap of believing that they must be friendly and accommodating to everyone they meet, regardless of how they are treated in return. However, the reality is that not everyone values or reciprocates kindness. Some people will take advantage of your generosity, using your willingness to help as an opportunity to benefit themselves without giving anything in return. Others may see your constant availability as a sign that they do not need to respect your time, assuming that you will always be there no matter how they treat you. Investing your energy in the wrong people can drain you emotionally and mentally. When you continuously give to those who do not appreciate your kindness, it can leave you feeling unappreciated and even used. You might find yourself questioning why your efforts are not acknowledged, or why you are always the one making sacrifices, while others take you for granted. This imbalance can lead to frustration and resentment, especially when you realize that your kindness is not being respected but rather exploited. It is important to understand that your time and effort are valuable and you should not waste them on people who only seek to benefit from you without offering anything meaningful in return. By being more selective about who you give your time and energy to, you create space for healthier, more fulfilling relationships. True friendships and meaningful connections are built on mutual respect, where kindness is exchanged rather than one-sided. When you start setting boundaries and limiting your availability to those who do not value you, you will begin to notice a shift in how people treat you. Those who truly care about you will respect your time, appreciate your efforts, and not take your presence for granted. Meanwhile, those who were only interested in what they could gain from you may slowly disappear. And that is a good thing. Understanding that not everyone deserves your time does not mean becoming cold or unkind. It means recognizing your worth and prioritizing relationships that are genuinely enriching. It means distinguishing between those who appreciate your kindness and those who only seek to take advantage of it. When you stop spreading yourself thin for people who do not deserve it, you free yourself from unnecessary emotional burdens and create more room for self-care, personal growth, and meaningful connections. Being friendly and helpful are admirable traits, but they should never come at the cost of your own well-being. There is a difference between being a kind person and being someone who allows themselves to be taken advantage of. By valuing yourself and being mindful of who you invest your time in, you ensure that your kindness is given to those who truly appreciate and deserve it. Not everyone is worthy of your energy, and the sooner you recognize this, the more empowered and fulfilled you will be in life. Kindness is a strength, but only when it is given wisely. Not everyone deserves your time, effort, or energy, and recognizing this is essential for your happiness and self. Stop overextending yourself for those who take you for granted and start valuing your own well-being. The right people will appreciate and respect you for who you are, not just for what you do for them. Choose to invest in relationships that are genuine and fulfilling, and never be afraid to walk away from those who do not value you. When you prioritize yourself, you will attract the respect and appreciation you truly deserve.